Support for this episode comes from Forward. Most people go to the doctor for the one-offs like rashes and colds and your annual flu shot. But doctors can do more. That's why you need Forward. Their doctors go beyond everyday care in an effort to catch top killers like cancer and heart disease early. They use advanced technology to help you reduce risks and achieve long-term results. So invest in a doctor that's invested in you and your long-term health at goforward.com. That's goforward.com.
Support for this podcast comes from Invent Together. I bet you didn't know that inventing activity by Black inventors peaked in 1899, and it has never recovered. Black and Hispanic college graduates patented half the rate of white college graduates. That's just one of the reasons why you need to know about Invent Together. When our patent system gets more diverse, our nation will get stronger and more successful. Find out how you can help diverse inventors and unleash economic opportunity at inventtogether.org.
You're listening to the Vox Media Podcast Network.
Hello there, everybody, and welcome to a brand new edition of On to the Next One. It's time to do some matchmaking on the MMA Fighting Podcasting Network. I am Mike Heck. Thank you for joining us as we discuss the fallout and the what's nexts for the notable names coming out of UFC Vegas 30 this past Saturday. And I wish the UFC would continue this trend of doing early fight night cards. This was a delight. I got to just relax and be a fan and watch BKFC and just enjoy the night without any pressure. It was great, but that's beside the point. Joining me in this venture is, of course, the co-host, the co-matchmaker, the best friend, and the prince of positivity, Mr. Alex K. Lee. Hello, my best friend. How's it going on this fine day? You're muted.
I am. My best friend. Take two. My best friend. It's a beautiful day. And I can't even believe we're talking about the UFC. That UFC card was so long ago now. I mean, I'm used to like just waking up and it's still being fresh in my brain because we were working on it till, Lord knows what time in the morning. But we've had another major combat sports event since then. I mean, do people even want to hear the matchmaking for UFC Vegas 30 right now? They're probably all buzzing about BKFC. They could be talking about Bellator and PFL from the night before. Oh, gosh. But you know what? I enjoyed the card, the UFC card. I think we should talk about it. I get it. It's a distant memory at this point. I think there was a Ryzen. Was there a Ryzen last night too? I don't know what's going on in combat sports anymore. This game is crazy. But yeah, I thought it was a nice card, man. It was what they say, Mike. Those cards that nobody's talking about, they're the ones that always deliver. So that adage certainly stood out, I think, on Saturday.
Yes, and it was also the quote-unquote go-home show for UFC 264, which goes down in less than 2 weeks. And I thought the promo packages for Poirier-McGregor 3 were very well done and got me very jacked up for this. But
intense.
Yes,
This has some history.
Yeah, I think they've squared off before. History. They've had some negative interactions. They've had quite positive interactions. Yeah. I think we're going to meet somewhere in the middle heading into July 10th. But that is July 10th. Let us go back to this past Saturday, and let us begin with, in my opinion, I don't know how you feel about this, this is probably the toughest piece of business on the card because Cyril Gane passed his biggest test with flying colors. He outclasses Alexander Volkov. It's a great performance. Moves to 9-0 as a pro. He's 6-0 in the UFC. But like we talked about on the previous show, AK, he's not in the best spot right now because there's a massive logjam above him in this heavyweight division. We have Ngannou the champion, who's Gane's former teammate. There's clearly a story there, but Gane's probably not getting the next title shot unless just a string of bad luck happens to everybody above him. He's presumably, Ngannou, that is, pronouns pal, getting set to fight Derek Lewis later this year. There's John Jones, there's Stipe. All those guys are in the mix for the heavyweight title. So what do we do? What do we do, AK?
Mike, I didn't find this difficult because I did what I always do when I'm faced with a challenge of this magnitude. I gave up. And that's a policy that served me well in my life. Children. I know we have a lot of children listening to this show. Don't be like me. But what I mean is, we discussed prior to the show everything you just said. How as cool and as competitive as this matchup was, Gon and Volkov, we knew it's not going to lead to anything big in the immediate future for either Gon or Volkov. So we were prepared for this. So I pretty much just had to go down my rankings, see who's free, see who makes sense, see who else is kind of on a win streak. And I'm just going to go Gon and Marcin Tybura. It's not a sexy matchup by any means. It's certainly at the point now where Gon has more to lose from that kind of fight than he does to gain. No pun intended. And originally, I think I wanted Tybura to fight Rosenstrike, but again, Rosenstrike now is booked for Curtis Blade. He got a quick turnaround, so not a quick turnaround, I should say, but a quick booking, so he's already ready. So that fight's off the table for me. That means Martin needs an opponent. He's on a win streak. So yeah, him and Gon, a good fight. Not the test, not sort of the kind of cool fight for Gon that we've seen in his last two outings, where we'll learn more about him. And again, really dangerous fight. I mean, Tybura is very different from Volkov or Rosenstrike. But again, if Gon has to fight in between now and getting a title shot, I went pretty conservative with my pick. I know there was another popular choice out there. I don't know if that's what you're going to go with, Mike.
Yeah, I honestly am not sure. I like to be surprised when I open up the old DMs and see what people are suggesting. But the correct and very basic and boring answer is he's just going to have to wait and see how these pieces fall. But honestly, with Curtis Blades getting the fight with Jairzinho, yeah, he could sub it and fight Blades if something were to happen to Rosenstrike heading into UFC 265 or in September, whatever, the 266. These are so far away at this point. But I thought Ciryl Gane had a tremendous performance. I thought he did a lot of things right, but I think he made a massive mistake when he had a microphone in front of him. He should have gotten on the microphone and not called for a title shot. He shouldn't have called for Francis. He shouldn't have called for John Jones or anybody like that. He should have called out Stipe. He should have absolutely called out Stipe. In fact, it makes sense for both guys, AK. Like, it makes sense for Stipe because it would probably be a smart idea, especially with the John Jones factor looming upon us, to get in there and get another win against a top contender, which in a fight he'd probably be favored in. And then it's a no-brainer to get back to a title shot. For Gane, he would have the chance to take a massive roadblock out of his path to the title. He can stay active. That's a main event or a co-main event on a pay-per-view. He's going to get paid pretty well to take that fight. And if he beats Stipe, I mean, he could literally, after that win, fight for the belt next if they can't come to terms with John Jones. So if I have to make an actual pick, that's the fight that makes the most sense, but he might not get it because I think it was kind of a lapse in judgment. He looked too far ahead. He didn't look far behind. But he should. There was an interesting choice right in front of him that I think he could have gotten had he been vocal about it. Stipe was the guy, and without this fight, it's going to take an awful long time for him to get a title shot, AK.
Yeah, look, Daniel Cormier gave him the chance post-fight. What do you want next? And he gave a very bland answer. He said, I want the next challenge. I'm ready for the next challenge, and which is cool, very classy thing to say. But yeah, that's the kind of thing that does not move the proverbial needle. That does not get the matchmakers shuffling their papers and hitting their phones, their texted phones to figure out what to do with you. They probably saw it and they're like, okay, cool. We don't have to worry about this guy for another couple of months. And that's really not where you want to be when you're coming off back-to-back main event victories. You should be having the matchmaker sweat a little bit. So yeah, again, another great win for Gane. Yes, we got to work on the call-out skills, Mike. Definitely need to work on that a little bit.
Yeah, be like, Stipe, I know you're trying to put on size, but don't bother, bro. You could be 285 pounds. I'm still going to start you. I'm going to send you back to Cleveland with another loss, bro. Let's go. Boom, he would have gotten that fight. But I digress. Good win for Ciryl Gane. Alexander Volkov is in a pretty rough spot now because he really needed that one. Because I don't know if he's ever going to get to a title shot at this point with the way this division looks right now and some of the guys coming up. That's just it's not that he's a bad fighter. He's a really good fighter. He's a very dangerous man, but he needed this one a lot more than Ciryl Gane did. But we move ahead to the co-main event. We saw Tanner Boser get back in the win column. He snaps a 2-fight skid, stops Ovince St. Preux in the second round in a finish that, AK, to put it lightly, it has been mired in controversy because there was... We'll call, everything's a gate. So fence grab gate, which, by the way, if you watch the replay or watched anything, 100% clear there was no fence grab. So that's not the controversy. The controversy stems from referee Jason Herzog because he thought Tanner grabbed the fence and he went over and clearly made contact with OSP. I couldn't tell watching it multiple times if he made contact with Bozer. And I'm not sure if he did, but it doesn't matter. He put his hands on OSP and then he changed his mind. So OSP is appealing the TKO loss because he was in a pretty good spot. He was on top of Bozer, who was on his back. Herzog comes over, looked to pause, changed his mind, and then the entire complexion of the fight changed after that. So before we matchmake for Bozer, who won the fight, AK, fellow Canadian, and deserves to be talked about for winning the fight, we know how difficult it is for these things to get overturned, right? But does OSP have a gripe here? Like, does he have a point?
He has two gripes, actually. One, Jason Herzog, I want to say first, I think one of the best, most consistent officials in the sport. So that was not a great showing for him, for sure. Deserving the criticism. I'm sure when he gets a chance to review the footage, he's gonna feel pretty bad about it. I think I do think that there was that one moment of contact that really can't be ignored. I know people will say, oh, like how much of a difference could it make? I mean, that can make all the difference in the world, especially during what turned out to be the fight-ending flurry. That's a big deal. So the other thing is, Mike, you don't know, but Canadians, we actually have a sixth finger. So I know the replays seem to have absolved Tanner. They're like, oh, clearly he's making a fist. How could he? We have a sixth finger. It's called the thingel. And it's thick enough to extend out and actually latch into the cage. So sorry, Tanner, I'm sorry to call you out, and also to all my other Canadians for revealing our freakish secret. He did have a sixth finger that's stretched out, and I believe it's the only explanation, because if you watch the footage, I don't know, maybe it was also the glove, the tension from the glove was able to kind of latch onto the fence, because it did seem to boost him out of the position he was in. So great move. I'll say great move by Bozer. Obviously nothing against the rules there. He just found a way to kind of get that glove right against on a part of the fence where it helped him just give him a little bit of leverage. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know if that's going to work for everyone. It could be a heavyweight thing, could be a hand size, glove size thing that lets you do that. But really a unique moment, because it did. Daniel Cormier in the moment thought for sure he must have grabbed the fence, and the replays, there's no way, it's not possible. All his fingers were pulled in. So. What was I talking about? Oh, who should? Oh, does he have a gripe? Yeah. Sorry, does OSP have a gripe? Yeah. So back to the original question. It's best based on the moment with Herzog. Yeah. I mean, like you said, is the chance of getting overturned? I mean, almost slim to none. I think there'll be some statement made about, we'll address these issues in the future, and the referee may have had a moment of incidental contact, but. I don't think it gets overturned. I don't think they run this one back. It was kind of thrown together to begin with, so OSP is going to have to sit on this L, unfortunately.
Yeah, he absolutely has a gripe here, and I'm not taking anything away from Tanner's win. And I mean, we saw that first round. OSP did absolutely nothing. I don't even think he landed. I don't even know if he threw a strike in that first round. I was going to
say, you just said you were going to say landed. I'm like, did anything get out there?
But he takes, he's a consummate slow starter, takes Tanner down, gets him in side control. That is not a good place to be if you're fighting Ovince St. Preux. And Tanner, it is what it is. He got up, finished the fight, did what he needed to do. How much impact did Jason Herzog in that moment have? I have no idea. But when I tweeted out that Jason Herzog didn't do a great job during the fight, I got absolutely destroyed. Oh, what? He didn't grab the fence, all this stuff. And I'm like, bro, sis... Of course, because we want to make sure that everybody gets involved here. What are you doing? I'm not talking about the fence grab or the lack thereof. It had nothing to do with it. The whole thing that I had the issue with was Herzog going in there and making contact with the fighters. And when you do that, like OSP said in a statement that he gave us, that's a pause. It's a pause or the fight's over. So I totally understand where he's coming from. And I don't know if it gets overturned, but I don't know. I haven't seen anything quite like this in this kind of position where it's about the referee and not about the fighter, and he's got a gripe. So we'll see what happens there. But it certainly changed things in the fight. And be that as it may, Tanner Bozer deserves to shine. Great performance, great first round. He got his opening in the second, blasted his way to a win. So I like Tanner a lot. I think he's got a very high ceiling in this division. I think he's only going to get better. I'm ready to give him another vet test. I want to throw him in there with Big Ben, AK. I want to throw him in there with Big Ben and see if he can add that name to his resume. So he's got something. He's a good fighter, good stand-up. He's got heart for days. He's great on the mic. That's my pick.
That's the one. That's the one.
That's the one.
Again, controversial or not, like we said, there's going to be an appeal. He's back in the W column. He did the UFC a favor by doing this quick turnaround and stepping in to fight a pretty dangerous guy, maybe a smaller opponent, but a pretty dangerous guy, and did himself a favor by kind of getting the bitter taste of that Ilir Latifi split decision loss out of his mouth. A lot of fighters don't get that opportunity. A lot of fighters might kind of stew on it, So good for him for. I don't even know. I'd love to know how this opportunity came about because it wasn't a heavyweight fight originally, but I guess OSP really wanted to stay on the card. So that happened. But yeah, no, Ben Rothwell's the way to go. A great matchup of styles. Yes, Rothwell is more experienced, but Boser has plenty of pre-UFC experience. And there's actually, I'm just looking at now, 7 UFC fights so far since joining the promotion. So he's been getting busy. Big Ben's the way to go. I don't think a lot of people are going to argue against that.
Support for this episode comes from Forward. Most people go to the doctor for the one-offs like rashes and colds and your annual flu shot. But doctors can do more. That's why you need Forward. Their doctors go beyond everyday care in an effort to catch top killers like cancer and heart disease early. They use advanced technology to help you reduce risks and achieve long-term results. So invest in a doctor that's invested in you and your long-term health at goforward.com. That's goforward.com.
This is advertiser content from Facebook.
Hi, I'm Taylor. I work at Vox Media, and I found my dream couch from Maidenhome thanks to a personalized ad on Instagram. So summer of 2019, I moved from LA to New York, super excited to start my New York dreams. And then the following spring, COVID hit and everything went downhill. And so I returned to my family home thinking that it would be for 2 weeks, and it turned into months. I just so desperately want to get back to having an adult life, having my adult life. So I was scrolling through Instagram looking for inspiration for the perfect pieces for my dream New York apartment. And then I came across an ad for Maidenhome. I saw a sofa that I really liked. So I clicked on the ad to learn more. And I really appreciated that it came from a small business that focused on local artisans in North Carolina. Searching for and finding pieces like this has really made me so excited to get back to New York. So I'm really glad I came across this ad on Instagram, and I can already imagine myself on this couch in my new apartment.
Good ideas deserve to be found. Personalized ads help you find them. Discover the next good idea and support small businesses on Facebook and Instagram. Visit facebook.com/supportsmallbusiness to learn more.
AK, what is the deepest, most absurd division in MMA right now?
Let me think. Let's see. Your average plebeian. Let's say I'm gonna make up a fan. Let's say let's just say his name is Jed. Let's say just out of Jed. Let's say this is your typical simple-minded MMA fan. Well, might be like, oh, it's lightweight. Oh, it's always lightweight. Lightweight's been the deepest, toughest division for like the last 10 years. Like, yeah, that might have been true once upon a time. It's in a great division. It's always a great division. But these days, Mike, you got to be talking about 135.
That is the correct answer. It is bantamweight, AK, and Timur Valiev gets a huge win over Raoni Barcelos. The fight was awesome. It was as expected. Dana White thought we didn't know about this fight when we all knew about this fight. In fact, we all knew about it so much, it got bumped to the main card because this was a prelim fight until the internet went wild, and then it got bumped to the main card as it should have been. It got fight of the night as expected. I will say, AK, I scored this fight for Raoni Barcelos. I thought he might have gotten out-volumed in the third, but he landed the harder and cleaner shots in the third. Damage goes to Barcelos to me. But that's my silliness. Certainly not a robbery. Certainly no issue with Valiev getting the nod. And again, I have an issue with the scoring. One judge gives Barcelos a 10-8 when it should have been a 10-8 across the board. So at worst, this should have been a draw for Barcelos, in my opinion, because, I mean, the difference between a 10-9 and a 10-8 is just it's ridiculous. We need to do something about scoring, but I'm not going to complain about this every single time we talk about these fights. But Valiev wants a top 15 guy, AK. Are you ready to give it to him?
I am. Technically, yes, I am. Yes, I am. I was looking back a little bit first, but then I realized I really wanted to see him fight. Well, first I had one name in mind, and then I forgot this guy as an opponent. My first thought was Song Yadong. I thought Song Yadong, perfect fight for him. Then I remembered Song Yadong is fighting Casey Kenny, UFC 265, August 7th. So I think either of those guys. I think the winner of that fight, that's the way to go. I believe they both have a number next to their name. Excuse me. And I don't recall which one's higher right now. I think Song might still be higher, but Kenny, we've said it for the longest time, is a future title contender. Song had a bit of a slip up in his last fight, but I think still looks like a guy who could contend. Super young. Both guys are really young. And I think Valiev is properly rated right now. Some people might be surprised that we're kind of pushing him so far up, considering he's just got a second UFC win. He had the weird fight with Trevin Jones, which, again, he probably could have won in the first round were it not for some odd officiating decisions. So he could be 3-0 in the UFC right now. And he came into the UFC with a lot of hype behind him, just like classic blue chip hype. So for me, he's I don't want to say he's 3-0 because I don't want to take away Trevin Jones coming back and doing what he did. But you can only fight when the referee allows, right? So I think this is the right game. I'm not going top 10 yet. I'm going. These guys need to fight for that top 15 spot still, and then after that, winner of that clearly gets someone in the top 10 if they can shake a name out of there. But yeah, so UFC 265. That's when we'll find out. I think who Valiev fights.
Yeah, I'm going to call him 2-0-1 because that, I believe, was overturned to no contest.
It was, yeah,
which is silly. I mean, it's just silly with the whole marijuana thing. Luckily, we don't have to deal with that anymore.
That's it's so dangerous, Mike.
I know
gosh, poor Valiev. I'm amazed Valiev did as well as he did.
I know, unbelievable. I'm ready to give him a top 15 guy, AK. And I kind of feel bad that I'm throwing this name out there as an opponent because I feel for him. Cody Stamann is the guy. AK.
Oh, yes.
You got to feel for him a little bit because this guy has fought an absolute murderer's row of like wily veterans, now champions, up and comers, and now you got to go from Merab Dvalishvili to Timur Valiev. That is not fun, but somebody's got to do it. And unfortunately for Cody Stamann, he's in this position right now. So that's where I'm at. I'm going with Cody Stamann, the number 15 ranked Stamann, to welcome Timur Valiev potentially to the top 15. So now, AK, go ahead, sir.
Cody, I would say I don't think there's one fight that he has been favored in. I'd have to look at the odds. I'm just looking at his UFC resume. I know he wasn't favored against Terrion Ware. Tom Duquesnoy, he definitely wasn't favored against. Brian Caraway, I'd be surprised if he was. Aljamain Sterling, he definitely wasn't. I'm just going up. Alejandro Turbo Perez, maybe. I'd have to look that one up. Song Yadong, I don't think he was favored. Brian Kelleher, maybe. And then I know his last two fights he wasn't. Merab Dvalishvili and Jimmy Rivera. He was not favored against either of those guys. So, yeah, when you talk about a guy who's another guy, we look at his record, it's like, 5-3-1, it's modest. It's like he's fought nothing but guys who were expected to beat his ass. So, and Valiev, I bet you would be a 2-1 favorite in a matchup if that matchup was made. So it would be right in line with how they booked him.
Yeah, I'm looking up the history right now.
Right?
He was a big favorite in his debut. He became a pretty
he was a favorite over Terrion Ware.
Minus 305. Yeah, he was a big favorite.
Really? Oh, I remember Terrion Ware. Sorry, Terrion Ware was on a bit of a losing streak. I remember he was quite a prospect at the time. Okay, so there we go.
Yeah, Duquesnoy became the favorite at minus 175. Stamann became a minus 160 favorite against Caraway.
Did he? Okay.
He was a dog against Sterling. He's a pretty big favorite against Alejandro Perez.
Okay, I can see that.
Massive dog against Song Yadong. He was favored almost a 2.5 to 1 favorite against Brian Kelleher.
Yeah.
Favored against Jimmy Rivera.
Was he?
Oh no, slight dog. It was basically a pick 'em.
Yeah.
And if you fought Askar, he would have been a 6 to 1 favorite.
Okay. But then Merab, we know he was an
massive underdog on that one.
So okay, I may have overstated it, but I think
but still, you're right. You make a great point.
A lot of the fights, I think he was the underdog. So.
Now, AK, per the official on to the next one rules, if a fight does not have a clear winner and loser, officially, we just don't get to make any matchups for those fighters. And we're talking about Andre Fili, who looked absolutely sensational until his finger accidentally got into the eye of Daniel Pineda, and hashtag MMA rears its ugly head yet again, aka no contest. That one ending really sucked, did it not? If in a weekend that had a lot of great moments and storylines, this is one of the worst things that happened the entire weekend, and from an unfortunate standpoint, is it not?
And seeing Daniel Pineda, made it worse, was Daniel Pineda clearly wanted to continue fighting. He clearly couldn't. That camera was right up and close. You could see his left eye was not opening up. It was not opening up. I know he said he could see. God bless him. He tried to guess how many fingers the cage side physician was holding up. They asked him twice. They covered up the one good eye, and they asked him how many fingers am I holding up. So twice you could tell. The first time there was a big pause, and you're like, okay, he probably can't see. And then the second time, clearly guessing. Dan Pineda is so tough. He really did. He said right after, he's like, I was getting effed up, and he wants to run it back, but he knows he was getting beaten this time. So yeah, it's super tough break for Fili, who was starting to live up to exactly what I said pre-fight. I was like, I think this is the beginning of a run for him. And he looked it. He looked like a class above Pineda. And then, the eye poke happens. And the stoppage completely justified. You just can't go on after that. But, yeah, real bummer for both guys.
Yeah. Fili looked tremendous. Pineda, I don't know how. This man is not human. He's not human. How did he get out of that first round? I have no idea.
Holy crap.
But Fili looked tremendous. And hopefully, they kind of treat him as the victor in a way and move him up against, unfortunately, featherweight is ridiculous, too. So he's not going to have... He's going to have a step up, and it ain't going to be an easy one, that's for sure. But let us head to the welterweight division. AK, Tim Means has now won 3 straight. He defeats Nicholas Dalby. He survived a late surge from Mr. Dalby, if you will. And AK, something tells me we are on the same page with this one, because I will say I was the co-conductor alongside of you of this train, and then I hopped off 2 weeks later. But now, at least in my eyes, all aboard once again. What is it? Unless you're the one jumping off the train this time around.
I think you better go first, because I actually went in a different direction than you're expecting.
Oh my gosh. No.
I know.
We're not lobbying for Robbie anymore? I'm lobbying for Robbie. I am absolutely lobbying for Robbie. Robbie Lawler, that's the fight. Just do the damn thing. He's won 3 in a row. Give him Robbie Lawler. Let's just see what happens. And try to boost him up a little bit. Lobby for Robbie is back, AK.
That to me is I one issue. And but if it happens, amazing. I'm not lobbying against Robbie. That's never going to happen. But I'm sort of not actively lobbying for Robbie right now. So the thing with me is, now that he has won 3 straight, I feel like we can start actually. And I know again, Means the point in his career where he doesn't necessarily care about this, but kind of pushing him up to more active guys that are in the top 15. So while a fight with Robbie Lawler would be amazing, I think he's earned himself a fight against someone who's currently in the win column. I feel just going to hate me for picking this and not going with live with Robbie, but I'd love to see Tim Means fight Santiago Ponzinibbio. I think it's a good fight. I think they're both experienced guys. It's one of those fights I'm surprised has never even been booked. I was looking back. I'm like, did I miss a booking? And it was canceled for whatever reason. I think they're right around the same part of their careers right now. The fight would be awesome. It would move one of them, not in the top 10, but top 13, top 12. Maybe keep Ponzinibbio there. And so I want to see that for Means. I don't know if he ever fights for a UFC title. I don't know if it matters, but I think he's earned, now on 3 straight wins against good opponents, I think he's earned the chance to at least get back in that conversation, make one last really, really honest run to the tops. So, and again, I know a win with Robbie over Robbie Lawler might even do more for him because Robbie's such a big name. But we're talking about just guys who are actually active and fighting and winning. Him and Ponzinibbio, that's where I went. I'm sorry, America. I'm sorry.
Wow.
I apologize.
I can't believe this.
I know.
Can I just say that Tim Means is the Shelton Benjamin of the UFC, where he doesn't have the limelight that he should have. He's not going to get the promotional push that he probably should get, because he's got a great story, but the UFC never really tells it. But when his name is on a fight card against anybody, people are like, yes, let's watch Tim Means fight. I think he's a very underrated guy on this roster, and he's a very valuable guy on this roster. He's not going to, like you said, he's probably not going to be a top 5 guy. He's probably not going to fight for a title, but he's a very valuable piece of this welterweight puzzle, just because he's such an exciting guy and he's really good and he's on a little bit of a surge right now. So good for Tim Means. Whatever he gets, I'm watching. But Robbie Lawler says he's ready to come back this year. So if that is the case, I'm lobbying once again. But let us move ahead to Renato Moicano, who got back in the win column with just a straight drubbing of poor Jai Herbert. The fight went pretty much exactly the way I thought it would. I went on the People's Pre-Fight Show and I said Renato Moicano is walking out of the Apex with a win and a bonus, and he should have gotten a bonus. He should have gotten a bonus for that performance. He did not. And you know what, AK? There have been so many times where the name I'm going to say has been thrown out either by you, mostly the listeners, and Jose Young's on other shows, and I haven't necessarily agreed with it, but I'm all in on it now coming out of Saturday. So give me Renato Moicano versus Alexander Hernandez, AK. It makes a heck of a lot of sense. To me, my best friend, this is the time to throw Hernandez in there and give Moicano the opportunity to boost his stock a little bit, because Hernandez, he's on a little bit of a slump right now, but he still has a bit of a name, mostly because of the Cerrone shenanigans. But yeah, I think it's time for that fight.
Yeah, I like it. I actually have people are going to think I'm crazy. Again, you know what? So Alexander Hernandez's spot in the rankings, was messed up from day one because of the Dariush win, right? And it suddenly became impossible to kind of calibrate where he should be. I think some rankings have kind of figured it out, now that he's had a lot more experience in that one fight, kind of figured out where to put him. I still have him hovering around the top 25. People might disagree. People could have him anywhere could easily have him outside of that. I definitely have Moicano outside the top 25. Now, he has the talent. I think he's a top 20 talent. No question. We saw that at featherweight. We've seen it in a couple of his wins at lightweight. But the competition he's fought at lightweight, I don't think is I don't want to say great. I would say it's not that accomplished. It's not that accomplished compared to some of the people ahead of him in my mystery ranking. So I'm going with a very kind of boring, almost kind of out there pick, one that has no heat. I want to see him fight Christos Giagos. It's, again, not a sexy matchup. I understand that. But Christos has found himself in a nice patch of success in the UFC, 4 out of 5, his last 5 appearances. And, again, a good test for Moicano. I'm just not sure where Moicano is yet at 155. Again, we know how good he can be. He could be in the top 10 someday. It would never shock me to see Renato Moicano in the top 10 155 someday. It's a long way to get there. I mean, that would be late by the end of 22 if he gets the right fights. But he could get there. But I want to see him really work his way up sort of in a slow way. So Hernandez would be a bit bigger of a jump for sure if he won that fight. But I'm going a little more middle of the pack right now.
Let us now head to the wild card round, where we are going to match up one fighter that has not been discussed in terms of future plans, and we're going to do it now. So, AK, who is your UFC Vegas 30 wild card fighter?
Well, it's funny you asked, Mike, because earlier you said we don't match up fighters who are in draws or no contests. So I'm cheating. I use my wild card to cheat, to circumvent our rules. I had to go with Fili. Fili, he won that. He finished him with the eye poke, Mike. All right, he finished him with one of the deadliest, of the traditional martial arts. If UFC were a real sport, this fight would just be a TKO via eye poke. But no, I think he showed enough, much like when we kind of were matchmaking for Leon Edwards after the Bilal Muhammad fight, where we're like, okay, the fight didn't go the distance, but we have a pretty good idea of where it would have gone. So I did view him as the winner. I do want to match him up with someone. It was a little bit tricky to find the right opponent for him. I want to give him a top 15 guy. There just aren't a lot of names that made sense for him right now. Like I said, it's one of the best divisions. So everyone who's in the top 15 at featherweight is just the elite of the elite. And that includes a guy, I don't know if he's elite of the elite, but he's certainly in my top 10. He's been having his own trouble establishing himself as a contender, and I think this is a good matchup for him. So I would like to see Fili take on Dan Ige.
Wow, I like it.
Yeah, I think that could be fun.
I am going with Shavkat Rakhmonov, AK.
Oh.
I think this guy is the real deal. In fact, I think he's ready for a giant step up right now, and I think he he has a very good chance of passing this test. Now,
was that a crack at Michelle Prazeres' height disadvantage?
Wow, I didn't even think about that.
How dare you, Michael?
I didn't mean that. AK mentioned it, Michelle. So if you're going to go after somebody, don't go after me. Now, I understand that this individual that I'm pairing Rachmaninoff with might not be overly thrilled with this piece of business because this is a deep and loaded division. He's coming off a win against an unranked guy. This is a name that you mentioned not long ago, AK. He just fought a surging prospect who came up short in his bid to get a huge win in a fight that will be mentioned in the fight of the year conversation. I want Rachmaninoff versus Santiago Ponzinibbio, AK. That's the fight I want to see because I want to see Rachmaninoff in there with an absolute dog. And no one really, I mean, Neil Magny, if they did Neil Magny, I'm fine. I want to see Magny Chimaev. If they can't get that one done, you want to throw Neil Magny in there with Rachmaninoff, I'm cool with that too, but I got to see what happens like the second half of a fight between Rachmaninoff and Santiago Ponzinibbio, just to see if Rachmaninoff can get into that deep water, get into that dog mode against a guy like that who ain't going away. I want to see it. That's the fight I want to see. I thought that immediately. As soon as the fight was over, I was like, man, can you imagine Rachmaninoff Ponzinibbio? That's just a ridiculous fight.
I would love... This is one of those situations where I wish we had a Dana White press conference after. I would love to know what he thinks of Rachmaninoff. I mean, we knew right away, if you want to compare him to welterweight that was hyped up, we just mentioned Chimaev. We knew right away on Fight Island how excited Dana White and the UFC were about Chimaev. I mean, he's got the full treatment. I'm not sure if Dana White knows who Rachmaninoff is. They might have to show him a picture of and a short clip of the fight to remind him, because this guy, like you said, he is the real deal. I have him in my top 25 already at welterweight, which is not easy to get into when you're only 2 UFC fights into your career. Maybe we're overrating him. I don't know. But again, I've seen some of his pre-UFC stuff. Obviously, his first 2 UFC fights, he looked great. He took out a veteran in Cowboy Oliveira. I wish I could offer my own matchmaking suggestion for him. It wouldn't surprise me if they gave him a name like Ponzinibbio. It also wouldn't surprise me if they gave him another guy to kind of another guy with as closer level of UFC experience to him that he can kind of, for lack of a better phrase, like style on. Because there's not a lot of guys at welterweight you can style on. It's a very, very tough division. But so I think Ponzinibbio sounds great. I'd like to offer a counter. I'm looking at the list here, and he's in a weird position because I jumped over a lot more. I jumped him over a bunch of guys with a lot more UFC experience. So for him to fight someone closer to his level of UFC experience, he'd have to go quite a bit far back in the rankings, I think. So I'm very excited for what's next. I just have no idea what it is.
Yes. And like I said this on the post-fight show, that through many conversations I've had over the last year or so with his manager, Danny Rubenstein, and I think Danny put this on Twitter on Saturday, his client roster is ridiculous. He thinks Rachmaninoff could be the top guy in his entire roster. And Petr Yan's there, Michael Chiesa's there, a lot of really talented fighters. One that we're probably going to mention with these listener suggestions as well, who made quite the impact in his Octagon debut on Saturday as well. So, yeah, I am all in on Rachmaninoff. I'm excited. And I don't...
Prazeres had never been finished.
I know.
This was his 30th pro fight. He'd never been finished. He's fought like Gilbert Burns.
Yeah.
And he beat Gilbert Burns, I think.
He submitted Alex Oliveira and Prazeres in back-to-back fights. That's insane for his first 2 UFC fights.
Nuts.
His resume is way better than Chimaev's right now. Way better.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
Yes. No argument.
It's not even close.
Bring it on, Chimaev, Hive. Bring it.
Yeah, I mean, you could throw those.
If you're still out there.
Yeah, where are you? Fight Rachmaninoff. Call him out. Dare you. Do we have any check the tapes or mic checks or anything like that?
Buddy, we got 2 mic checks, including one that literally just came in while we were recording.
Oh, no.
So one of them I at least had the chance to look over. This other one is going to be kind of unfiltered. So again, for our listeners 12 and under, I apologize ahead of time. No. These are people who they mic check with love, Michael. They mic check with love. So Thomas Collins from Twitter first wants to say, so we gave him a little bit of a hard time last week. He claims that he had called Askarov versus Alex Perez, and I had said, well, do we really count this? Because he had actually said Askarov versus Perez Schnell winner. That fight fell through, so then he wanted credit for like saying, well, then technically I said Askarov versus Perez. And Mike, you were insistent that maybe we don't give him credit in that situation. So he says, this is my response. He says, I called for Askarov versus the winner of Perez and Schnell. I was not calling for any one of the two fighters, unlike Mike, because I think you had defended, I think you had made an example, and you're like, oh, I don't get credit for this matchup. Unlike Mike, who was suggesting a fighter, and he says he can't remember who should fight Uriah Hall or Sean Strickland, and therefore he was not being clear about who his matchmaking choice was. My matchmaking suggestion was a winner of a future fight, which would clearly be one fighter at the time I made the suggestion, and therefore I still call that a check the tape, because I look forward to your response.
I gave him a half a point. He should be happy with a half a point.
All right.
And by the way, this is a Sean Strickland thing, because I said after Sean Strickland's last win that it just depended on whether Uriah Hall would be ready to come back quickly after the Chris Weidman leg break incident. And I said if he did want to bounce right back and not wait to either rebook Weidman, which probably wasn't going to happen, or take another fight, then Strickland was the guy. So, yeah. You know what? I'm feeling generous today. It's a beautiful day here in Massachusetts. I am officially crediting, because of the respectful response, and he's not wrong. I wouldn't say he's right, but he's not wrong. I'll give him a point. You get a point.
You give him the full point.
I'm giving him the full point. And
Mike,
let me write him down on the check the tapes board.
No,
you're on. You made it.
Mike, I thought we were going to use that half for ourselves. I thought we were going to just bank that half like Dana White does when there's a no contest or a draw on a card.
I've learned in life, in fatherhood and husbandhood, you got to pick your battles. You got to choose which hills to die on. I'm not dying on that one, so you get the point. Well put together argument. Good rebuttal. You enjoy your point, sir.
Damn it! I was going to use that. I was going to use that half a point. That half a point was going to go towards the vacation. All right.
Listen, this is our show. We can get half points for anything.
That's not. We don't have an infinite budget of points, Mike. I don't know who you're talking to. We have a certain amount of points budgeted for, like a fight night card. We have a certain amount of points budgeted for each card. Anyway, Nate Andrews. Okay, what was his? Oh, this is I think. Gosh, I'm not involved in this. This is a check the tapes for the post fight show for last night. I have so this Nate Andrews on Twitter says, I have a monumental, gigantic, shocking, and vital mic check if it's not too late. On the post fight show, Mike, Casey, and Jose were trying to think of comebacks of the year. I guess when you were discussing Nzechukwu and Marquez.
Yes.
He says he's honestly so steamed he can't remember how it came up. 3 of these brilliant, intelligent MMA journalists, I really should have read this before. 3 of these brilliant, intelligent MMA journalists could not think of Oliveira Chandler when thinking of great comebacks this year. As much as Mr. Heck, a well-respected fellow New Englander and a fantastic MMA mind, has talked about how much he loved that fight, I cannot believe he did not mention that fight. Oliveira Chandler has to be comeback of the year because the belt on the line, the major push Chandler was getting, and the narrative of Charles quitting in fights being shifted in such a massive way. I'm shocked that Mike forgot to mention that fight. To Mr. Heck, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
I cannot believe you just did that to me. Okay, so he's not wrong. He's probably right. Yeah. But it was one of those things where like the question pops up, and there's so much going on. By the way, dealing with this for the entire day and night. Sometimes things slip our minds, and that was one of those things that slipped our minds. But if you're gonna mic check me, we need to mic check everybody who watched the post fight show and streamed it live, because we asked for like,
sure.
All right, if you think of something, just like throw it at us, because sometimes we rely on stuff to like get the light bulb lit back up, and that didn't happen. No one even mentioned that, because we went on to like a whole other thing. I think the Rachmaninoff thing came up, and we were talking about that, and that was like 20 minutes by itself. But you're absolutely right. The correct answer is Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler. I don't know. The comebacks are a little different because, I mean, Oliveira was on the brink of, being finished. Like, if the referee had stepped in and stopped that fight, no one would have complained about it. the fight between Marquez and Nzechukwu was a little different. I mean,
he wasn't even really hurt in the first round, if we're being honest.
He was down 2 rounds, no doubt about it. But I don't know. He was starting to turn around in the second. He was starting to turn around. Like you could see the comeback coming. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I will say,
history.
Yeah, and another thing I said on the post-fight show, which I'm completely sticking by and doubling down on. If you're gonna fight Kennedy Nzechukwu, you better fight him right now. Like, you better fight this man now.
Yeah.
Don't fight him in 2022 or 2020. Definitely don't fight him in 2023. You fight him now if you want to try to beat this man, because he's only going to get better and better and better. Like, his ceiling is very high. I picked Marquez to beat him, and I was feeling pretty good about my pick until I saw the freaking standing body triangle in the first round. I'm like, you're really going to just burn yourself out like this when you could just cruise to a win? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? But I digress. Thank you for the mic checks, gentlemen.
That was Nate Andrews. I love that mic check so much. Mike, I'm going to give him a point out of my my point salary. People don't, we are paid and on to the next one points. So Nate, I love that so much, and it made me laugh. So I'm going to give you, and as Mike says, you're everything you said completely accurate. So a point for you, Nate Andrews. That's Mike. Don't worry, that's coming out of my bag. Don't worry about that. So
yes,
a point to Nate Andrews. No actual check the tapes. There weren't that many matchups of note that were announced this week, if I can recall. So no check the tapes in that regard. We can move on to the listeners.
Support for this episode comes from Locker Room, the app that's changing the way we talk sports. Locker Room is a sports fan's dream come true. It's a live audio platform that lets you connect with other fans, experts, and even the athletes themselves. Locker Room makes it easy to start your own conversations. Talk about the latest rumors, takes, news, and teams you care about most. Join massive watch parties for all of your friends to react together in real time as you celebrate a buzzer beater or suffer the agony of a crucial bricked free throw. And if you've got a bunch of supremely spicy takes you'd like to fire off, you're in luck. You can even record the conversations if you want and release them as a podcast. So it's time to start thinking about catchy titles. It's all totally free and available at the iOS App Store right now. So go, download it today. Locker Room, changing the way we talk sports.
This episode is brought to you by the NBA. Witness mind-bending competition on the biggest stage between the best players in the world, a place where legends are made. It's impossible jumps that seem to freeze in midair, and spectacular steals that you didn't see coming. It's that one play that lasts seconds that you will talk about for the rest of your life. And let's face it, it's the unpredictability of it all, never knowing when the next big moment will happen. Huge wins and crushed dreams. It's the drama of it all. You just can't make this stuff up. That's the NBA. That's game. The NBA playoffs are happening right now. Don't miss all the action.
To the peeps we go.
Standard disclaimer, guys.
Yes.
Again, we prefer to talk about winners. We prefer to talk about mostly try to bring up unique matchups, though again, there's a lot of overlap. Please keep in mind, guys, fighters could already be booked. That happened a bunch of times this week, Mike, and so I'm not reading out. If you guys are wondering why was my response not read? You did not know that this person was already booked, so I didn't read it. You may have made some other mistake, weight class. They could have fought this person already. You forgot. Someone could be injured, and we just don't. I mean, why even mention that then? And of course, most importantly, your pick might just be a doo-doo, and we don't want to read it. So keep that in mind, guys. If you send in something and it doesn't get read, you may have broken one of these rules.
Yes. Let us begin with Brandon Nunez, who coined the hashtag Brown on Brown last week after Matt Brown's win. He said Jeremiah Wells, after his great debut, versus Chaos Williams. That's just a sick, insane, crazy fight right there.
There's a lot of Williams mentions this week. We need to get this man a fight soon, because I saw him. He was matched up with literally every welterweight on this card.
Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Ponzinibbio. Yes, that is absolutely the fight to make, Brandon. Feely versus Dawadu. Volkov versus Jairzinho. I assume win or lose. Gane versus Stipe. So well done. Oh boy, there's a lot of these. All right, Ronan Murphy. He even warned me. New card, so some picks are coming. Moicano with great wins, so maybe Drakkar close since he got annihilated against Beneil, so it would be a good name for Drakkar if he wins and a good name for Moicano if he wins. Tim Means, I want him to fight Robert Lawler. There you go. Annoyed about Feely versus Pineda, but definitely good decision to stop the fight. Think Feely would have won, so he should get a step up. He already fought Sadiq Yusuf, so sorry, you can't go with that one. Valiev should fight Cody Stamann. I like it. Bozer should fight the Tai Tuivasa versus Greg Hardy winner. What do you think about that, AK?
You said that was, sorry, for Bozer?
Bozer versus the Tuivasa Hardy winner.
Yeah. I mean, I obviously I'd prefer Tuivasa, but I think either one probably would make sense. I'm not against it, but Ben Rothwell's the way to go.
And Ronan Murphy, who, by the way, we're listing this whole thing down, would like Cyril Gane versus John Jones.
What, that man, is this a real? This is multiple people mentioned this, and the first person who mentioned it, I thought it was crazy. I guess it's not crazy.
I mean, and
I guess we'll want to see Jones fight.
Yeah, that's what it like.
Jones, get in there and fight a heavyweight, please.
If John just if John's is just like, I just want to fight, just give me anybody. That's kind of what he would want to see. Bryant Chambers had a ball tournament today since Nova Scotia finally started lifting restrictions. Bryant is a fellow Canadian. There you go.
Shoutouts.
So I missed the fights, but wanted to throw out 4 matchups. Gane versus the loser of whoever fights Francis for the title next. Bozer versus Walt Harris. Step back for Harris that he needs, and if Bozer wins, he finally gets that win he really needs. Run back Pineda versus Feely. Rachmanov versus the King of Kung Fu. Muslim Salikov. That's a good fight too. I'm okay with that one. He's a top 15 guy, so that works for me. Robbie Ryan. Good day, gentlemen. This week's comments on UFC Vegas 30. Don't know why Volkov gave up on the early success with attacking Gane's lead leg. Cyril Gane versus John Jones would be entertaining as hell, but I think Gane versus Stipe will be the next appropriate matchup. Tanner Bozer looked great, but still question marks on his grappling. Heavyweight is so shallow, he could still face a ranked opponent like Blagoy Ivanov or Walt Harris next, though. AK, I
don't love the Harris. I got some Harrises too. I don't love the Harris matchup because again, but we have been campaigning for a long time for them to just give Harris someone that he can just knock the hell out, and that I do not think that is Tanner Bozer.
Yeah, I think it's more just let's not get him in there with a guy who could take him down and just smush him.
Yeah,
like let's give him a chance.
I think Tanner Bozer would beat him. Also,
I think Tanner would win too.
But like he's so tricky and so fast on the feet. Like that's not no. I mean, Walt Harris is really fast too for heavyweight. I should say, but
yeah, but it's a stand-up fight, and I think that's why people kind of want to see it. Like it gives Walt more of a chance, just because.
Give Walt like Chris Barnett, or I mean, we know we want Chris Barnett, Rocky Martinez, but I don't know. Give him one of them, the winner of that fight. I don't know.
Let's see Andre Feely versus Shane Burgos. Why not? Feely, a very popular choice here, even though it ended. And just quickly on Poirier versus McGregor upcoming. Logic says Dustin, but I have a feeling Connor has something up his sleeve. So if Robbie Ryan's right.
What does that mean?
Our man Sneakers Flippers back in our lives. Our big friend from Italy, Francesco. Gane versus Ngannou. He's just going right for the belt. He's the true number one contender.
Some people want it.
Bozer, I saw this a couple of times. Bozer versus Alexander Romanov.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I saw it mentioned as well. Yeah, not my favorite matchup for Bozer.
Valiev versus Stamann. Means versus Alex Morono. Moicano versus Nasrat Haqparast. Rachmanov versus Jake Matthews. Julia Avila versus Jessica Rose Clark. Jeremiah Wells versus Impa Kasanganay.
Yeah, Avila versus Jessica Rose Clark I think that's the best matchup I think I saw suggested this week that I wish I'd thought of myself, because Jessie Jess she did have a knee injury after her last fight, but I believe she had said way back when she was expecting a mid 2021 return. Obviously we're mid 2021 now. Even if she's not ready now, you could probably give it a couple of months, and fingers crossed she seems to be back in training from what I can see.
Yep.
Hopefully that to me I think is my favorite listener suggestion that I saw pop up a couple of times.
We have a first-timer, and I apologize if I get this wrong. Kahan Hallinan. I like these, where it's like full description and all this stuff.
Yes.
Hey, we like this.
Yes.
Hey, Mike, longtime listener to your shows. Few opinions on matchups if you are interested. We are always interested. That's the basis of this program. If Jones really sits out for another year and Ngannou Lewis 2 happens soon, I'd love to see Gane fight the winner. Otherwise, him and Stipe makes sense if Stipe would take it. But who knows with heavyweight? I like Valiev versus Stamann or Rivera because he deserves a top 15 fight, and they're both coming off losses, so aren't really in the position to turn down any fights. I'm still going to lobby for Robbie with Tim Means, but for some reason, I'd really like to see how him versus the James Krause would play out. I like that idea as well. I'm sure he'd want someone ahead of him in the rankings, though. Also, I'd like to just say I hate the Rakhmonov versus Khamzat Chimaev matchup I've seen floating around social media. Although I don't think the UFC would make that fight anyways. Maybe in a year or two they could be fighting for the title. Finally, I just want to say that the BTL tag team matchup this week was just peak entertainment, and I would agree with that. What else do we got? Alec Inilian said he unfortunately missed the card for a job interview, which he got. Congratulations, Alec. We appreciate that.
Oh, way to go.
Well done. Well done, sir. But I think Arlovsky should get Volkov. Okay. I don't know if he'll win, but Arlovsky deserves one last chance for all the years he's put in.
Sounds like something that will happen.
Okay, Christian Lee. Well, I think I get a few more. Hey, Mike and AK. Hope you all are well. Hope you are well as well, Christian. No, we're not the one lightweight champion, Christian Lee.
Not the one that every time I think like, man, we finally got him.
Haven't contributed in a few weeks, but still been listening. Rakhmonov looked great. Possibly one win away from getting a ranked guy. How about Rakhmonov versus Morono?
I saw people suggest that one. Yeah, Morono is you talk about Means being an important piece in the welterweight division. I think Morono is one of those guys now too. I think you can match him up against up and comers. You can match him up against veterans. You need guys like the great white to keep that division together. So yeah, good for Morono by the way, and putting himself in that position. He fought himself into that position where he can get big fights. He can get up and comers. So way to go.
We said that one. Nzechukwu versus Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. Don't mind that one.
Yeah. I like it.
And the other we got Tanner Boser versus Jared Vandera from our friend Matt Ravelli. That was a nice solid win, but I think that would be a fun fight. Give him some more confidence. Also, Gane versus Stipe, even though he wants to bulk up, this fight didn't do much for the heavyweight division for me. I think him versus Stipe would be good for the division. I wouldn't hate him stepping in to fight Curtis if something happens there as well. I agree. Will, we already said that one, but he said Tanner Boser versus Chris Dawkins at some point. I know Chris has a fight, but
Abdurakhimov.
Sean Bradley, he's going different. No MMA, Teofimo versus Loma 2, please. There you go.
Hey, we welcome all matchup suggestions. Run it back.
And then I will read this one. This is from our friend Magic Mighty 67. He sent this to both of us. Hi, chaps. Not sure if I got this in on time, as I'm not sure if you're recording, as it was an early finish on the Saturday. Also, I know you don't like when I message you both, but also you seem to get upset when I message one or the other, and I wouldn't want to offend either of you.
It's Magic Mighty Mart, of course. Hello, sir.
Well, thank you, and you can send them however you'd like. We're cool.
Yeah.
Only two for me. Gane versus Lewis and Ngannou loser. He's ready. I mean, another one throwing him right in the title fight. And Rakhmonov versus the winner of Nico Price versus Michel Pereira. Rakhmonov, I'm telling you, will be a champ by the end of 2023. He's my favorite prospect right now. Much love, guys.
That's actually end of 2023. That's actually a pretty conservative. I would not bet against that either. Yeah, I like that.
So yeah, there you go. That's mine. On to you, my friend.
All right. As you mentioned, again, I don't want to read all the listener suggestions. I can tell you, guys, don't worry. I keep track of them all, guys. I will give you credit if some of these fights are made. Gane versus Miocic and lobbying for Robbie were by far the two most common suggestions. So again, I apologize to Robbie lobbyists for not being fully on the train. Again, I'm not against it, guys. I'm not against it. I've just kind of moved on from it for now. But yeah, the two biggest by far. Valia versus Stamen, also one that came up a lot. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I almost wish I'd picked that one. For Moicano, I don't think I heard this in your listener suggestions, Mike, but I might have just missed it. Moicano versus Sarukian. That's a tough fight Sarukian is a tough fight for anybody. That's a big, but I actually like I said, I don't feel like Moicano has separated himself from the middle of the pack at 155 just yet. I do think he has to do more tough fights before we start talking about him against top 20, top 15, top 10 guys. So I like it, and a few listeners did as well.
Is Sarukian ranked?
And I don't think so. I think because he lost to Makhachev in his first fight. He shouldn't be ranked. I don't think he would have been if he had won his UFC debut. And I just don't think he's been.
He is
active
ranked.
enough. I mean, if he what is he?
He's number 15.
Oh, he's right at the door. Okay, so again, I don't think I have him that high up in my rankings. I'm gonna check. See, I don't see. This is where oh gosh, why can't I find it?
Oh no.
Oh, there he is. No, it's fine. It's fine. Oh, okay. No, see, I only have him at 24th in my rankings, so I don't have him near the top 15 yet, if we're being real. So, and I say this as a big fan of Sorokin, but I think people know by now I need to see at least like 3 or 4 UFC fights. Oh, he's had 4. Oh, he's on a 3-fight win streak. I stand by whatever it is I just said without justifying it, Mike. I stand by it without justification.
What a tough stretch that is from Moicano to fight Fiziev. Herbert was like, and then Sarukian. Ooh,
he's got the talent for it. He's got the talent. He's one of the deadliest guys on the ground. He's a great kickboxer. I know he said he's like kind of maybe fell too much in love with his striking, but he is actually a really good striker. So it's a tool he has.
He beat Calvin Kattar in a fight.
Yeah, right. And Jeremy Stevens too. Am I getting mixed up with someone else? Didn't he beat up Jeremy Stevens? Or am I thinking of?
I think you're right.
Yeah. He won it. Yeah, he won decisions against Jeremy Stevens and Kattar. But yeah, Sarukian came up a lot, and I like that. And the most popular pick for Julia Avila was not Jessica Rose Clark, though. Again, that's my favorite matchup. Lena Landsberg. People throw out Lena Landsberg. She's been on a break for a while. She had a child earlier this year, I think in March or April, with a former UFC fighter, Akira Khorasani. And I don't know. I don't know what her plans are to return to competition. She may just be enjoying motherhood for now. But I think the schedules could line up rankings wise, sort of where they are, like as far as prestige and accomplishments. I like it. So that one came up a lot. I prefer Jessica Rose Clark. I think that's the way to go whenever she's ready to fight. But Lena Landsberg came up a lot. Any other matchups that Feely versus Alex Caceres is one that came up, which is one of those I swore they'd fought and apparently they haven't. Feely versus Lando Venata was one that came up a couple of times.
That's fun.
That'd be Lando Venata versus anyone is just so much fun. And Tsuchuku, a lot of matchups. Misha Serkinov, I think, is a little too much too soon. But like you said, if I was Misha, I would take that fight now. If I'm Misha Serkinov, I'm taking that Tsuchuku fight now, as opposed to a year from now, when who knows how Tsuchuku will have developed as a prospect. Jeremiah Wells, people want to see him versus Amiv, which I like. I'm a fan of you replace a fighter, you beat their opponent, and then you take, you kind of took their spot. Now you get to fight them and take their actual spot in the rankings. So I thought that was a good one. Anyone else? Any others really jump out at me? Charles Rosa versus Mike Trezano. I think that'd be good. That'd be cool.
I like that one.
People had Damir Hazovic versus Kama Worthy. So those are some consensus. At least 2 people picked those. Now I'll try and go quickly through some of these. Got a lot of newbies this week. I'm very excited. First, in our emails, the emails are back. Zach Laff is our first-time emailer. He wrote his thing in all caps. I will not shout it out. I imagine he was shouting. So Zach, I apologize. I will not read with the appropriate enthusiasm. He likes Boza versus Espino, Moicano versus Damir Asmagulov, and I don't like this one. Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Miguel Baeza. Keep those guys away from each other for now.
Rakhmonov's ahead of him right now, so you gotta keep those. He is.
Rakhmonov is ahead of him.
Oh yeah.
Not in my rankings, sir. Not in my rankings.
Two finishes, two submission wins over those 2 guys. In your first 2 fights,
he's like a foot taller than Prazeres.
So what? It's listen, God made him the way he is, and
I'm just as God made me, sir.
And Baeza, unfortunately, even though he fought a very tough fight and it's one of the best fights of the year, he's coming off a loss.
Sure, I'm not against it, but I just want to keep.
Yeah, I don't want to see them fight each other, though. I'm with you on that.
Right. Another new emailer, Tom Roeder. First of all, he says, happy birthday. It's not my birthday. It's never my birthday, but I appreciate the positivity, as always. Coming in with Boza versus Walt Harris, which, again, we've said kind of, I'm not a fan of it. Feely versus Chaz Skelly, another one for me you can file under. I didn't know these guys hadn't fought before. He said, just throw in Pineda with Charles Rosa, 2 guys in the same card. Yeah. And Moicano versus John Makdessi. I think that would be a real... Well, Matt Tessie has pretty good takedown defense, so I don't mind. Maybe we get to see K1 Moicano again, much to the disappointment, I think, of a lot of his fans who just want to see him just get his Damian Maia on people. And Tristan Gordet is back. He had a message. Oh, he has a message for you. Okay. It's not. I don't think it's a mic check. I had to like 3 mic checks this week.
Jeez.
He likes Feely versus Billy Quarantillo. Is it Quarantillo or Quarantillo? Quarantillo. Quarantillo was supposed to fight Herbert Burns. Burns tore his ACL. That's my note, by the way, for everyone else who's sending in Herbert Burns suggestions. He has torn his ACL. That means I would imagine anywhere from, we probably don't see him again for at least 9 months. I'm not an expert on these things, but generally torn ACLs, you're out for a long time. So please, people, no more Herbert Burns suggestions. Let's just hope the man has a speedy recovery. But I like that fight, Feely Quarantillo and Rachmanov, versus Randy Brown. Tristan's message for you, Mike. He says,
real quick
Go ahead,
though. Billy Q is now fighting Gabriel Benitez on that card instead.
He does have an opponent. That's right. He did get a new opponent, Mowgli. Tristan says, Alex, tell Mike Heck that Jose Youngs was right. I don't know what this is in reference to, by the way. He says, I don't feel, I think something, a matchup with Baeza or something? I don't know. He says, I don't feel Ponzinibbio will take that fight and only wants to fight up. He's already fought a prospect in Baeza because of his loss against Li Jingliang. Oh, because you're saying Rachmanov and Ponzinibbio, right?
Correct.
Okay, right. So he says he's already fought a prospect in Baeza because of his loss against Li Jingliang. I'm not saying that's not a great fight. I just feel that Ponzinibbio wants to pick up where he left off before the injuries. Remember, Ponzinibbio was on a 7-fight win streak before that loss against Li Jingliang. So this is two insta mic checks today.
Right, but I don't agree with that. Like he got deaded by Li Jingliang, and I know it wasn't fun. Like we wanted the comeback story and all that, but it doesn't change the fact he got knocked dead on ABC in front of the world. Like that happened. I'm sorry, beating Baeza. He's back in the top 15. And that's great. And maybe he shouldn't even be in the top 15 after being knocked out like that and beating a prospect. And you know what? You are in this division. A lot has changed since you left, sir. A lot has changed. You're gonna have to fight these guys. I'm sorry. You think Kevin Lee wants to fight Sean Brady? Guess what? He has to fight him. You know, he's not fighting him July 10th, but the plan is to rebook that fight. He's got to fight him. Dude fought for an interim title.
Mike, you're please. The levels,
I'm getting upset. I'm sorry.
You are entering a new level of. I've never heard you get that high. Your voice
I know.
Get that high
I'm
before.
just.
Listen, you've had enough.
Ponzinibbio does not have any power in this scenario. I'm sorry. Like
Mike,
he's not a big star. He's not Colby. He's not Connor. He's not. Like you're gonna have to fight this guy. I'm sorry. If they offer it, you're gonna have to say yes, Mike, or you are screwed.
Don't apologize. You were very cordial with our first 2 mic checks. And I was very impressed by your patience and your understanding. This is 3 mic checks now in one episode. We've never had this before. It's clearly it's gotten to you, and I think your defense is appropriate. So Tristan, thank you for the mic check, but I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
And don't ever start off a mic check by saying Jose was right.
Automatic, no points.
Yeah,
that may cost you a point in the future.
I'm taking the half point back, and now we get another half point for the bank. AK.
Oh, there we go. So it all balanced out. We came out ahead, really.
Just kidding, Tristan. We love you.
Oh, we love you for sure. Happy to see you back this week. We'll go to Instagram. I normally start with the new people, but I like this guy's comments so much, I'm going to save him for the last of the Instagrams. Just a handful here. Michael Conifray wants to see Renato Moicano versus Mason Jones. It'll be a fun grappling battle. He's trying to get a hashtag going here, which we struggled a little bit. So he wants to see Rachmanov versus Sean Brady. Brady, of course, now losing out on the Kevin Lee fight. Mike, you're not happy with it. How about when you hear the hashtag for it, though? We workshopped this. Hashtag Shankov Brodmanov.